Hi, welcome to part three of the Star Market Opportunities for Foreign Technology Companies. This episode, Mark, I think you wanted to go a little bit more detail on the cooperation model that you kind of thought of in your head. Maybe we should go through step by step.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, so look, I think it's worth stressing, we haven't seen this actually work in practice yet. So we do have some clients who are looking at this. And I think like in the previous episodes, we talked a little bit about international technology companies, how China's too big to ignore, too difficult to conquer. And then the other issue is they've got limited bandwidth. So they're busy raising capital, they're busy, developing their tech, they're busy developing their home market. So how do they deal with China? And I think one of the ways they may deal with it is to open up to more of a joint venture. And one of the concepts we've been thinking about, and we'll see if somebody will do it, is
sorry, Mark. Sorry. Which screen are you looking at?
I'm looking at step one: set up a China woofie.
The big screen.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay, it's my fault then. Are you still seeing the big screen?
Now I see the big screen, like only the big screen.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. Okay. All right, let me do it again.
Okay.
Welcome to part three of the Star Market Exchange Opportunities for Foreign Technology Companies. We talked a little bit before, Mark, in the other episodes about the context, the overview of the star market, why a foreign tech company might be interested in partnering up with the star technology company or vice versa. And maybe in this episode, we can go a little bit in more detail, step by step, on how you foresee this cooperation actually playing out.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Yeah, so look, I think it's important to stress that we haven't actually seen this happen yet, but this is, I think, a brainstorming about possible things that could happen. And so I think one of the first issues is we have these international tech companies, and they realize that China's a very important market for them, but they also realize they have bandwidth issues. They're busy in their home market, they're busy developing their tech, and they're also busy often raising capital. And so they've got this dilemma where they really feel they need to be in China because it might be the biggest market, it might be their second home market, but they don't really have the resources to do it. And even if they have the resources to do it, they don't have the people, they don't have the China business or the infrastructure to really incubate it and make it successful. So one of the ideas we had was whether somebody could, in a first step, set up a tech woofie. And so, you set up the woofie. Obviously, in tech, you have to check if there's legal restrictions. So some, value-added telco companies might be off limits, or a publishing company or a media company. Have to be careful about that. But most tech companies are either encouraged or permitted. Then also you have to look at, what kind of investments needed. And then I think important for tech companies is trademark patents. And interestingly enough, a lot of the clients we're having at the moment services are software companies, and many of them don't register their software copyright in China. It's inexpensive. It's definitely worth doing because it really helps you on the evidentiary basis. And we've already got a case right now where the client did it 3 months ago, and they've already using this copyright software registration to help them in a case against another Chinese company. So that's important. And then I think where you will set up, I think we discussed in a previous episode, local governments are really pushing these kind of tech companies. So if you find the right place, you'll get subsidies, you'll get perhaps, cheaper rent. You can get also a Chinese local authority that will band together some of the local PE funds or that. And if you're really an interesting technology, there'll be a lot of companies and zones interested in you. And then I think the issue is the technology license, the woofie, because I think one of the issues is it's difficult to get the right Chinese partner if you don't have a bit of a China story. So this idea is to set up a company in China as a tech woofie, and then you license the technology, maybe irrevocably, maybe exclusively, so that this company has the ability to really function in China. Next slide, please.
And a woofie is a wholly foreign-owned entity.
Yep. Okay. And so, look, here what we think is, they'll you can do this relatively easily. You could hire the staff, you could secure the IP rights for the woofie, secure the subsidies, preferential treatment with the local authorities, and you would probably have the local authorities, and you may even have a letter of intent signed up with your potential Chinese investors. And then you would start building a business with Chinese customers. And then always, if you're a digital company, worry about your invoicing, worry about your China sales model, contracts, ICP licensing. You can outsource the HR, you can outsource the accounting, and then you have to work out, do you have to localize or improve the IP? So I think, in a very easy way for most companies, within a 3 to 6 month period, you can actually set up a functioning wholly foreign owned enterprise, and you could even enter into some contracts. So as a first step.
Mark, can you explain a little bit more about invoicing? What do you mean? What invoices do your customers need? Because I think that's one of the common problems that a lot of tech companies don't really anticipate when they enter or start doing business in China.
Yeah. So I think, look, the first issue there is if you are doing a value-added telco service, you may need a certain type of invoice. A lot of people will work offshore. And if you're working on a totally offshore basis, one risk is you may have a permanent establishment tax risk if you're not, really fully offshore. But the bigger problem, or the more direct problem, is your invoicing, and it's difficult. So you'll probably need a Chinese partner. And so if you're in the tech space, it's important to know what kind of invoicing will happen. And that's quite a technical area. And a lot of people set up in China without understanding what the sales model will be. So I think, this is something to iron out before you actually launch the business.
And once you've started the business and you've built a little bit of the China story, like you said, step 3, become a JV.
Yeah, so I think the idea there is, it's a little bit different, but we have one client which is moving ahead a bit slowly, because the tech companies, they're fast in their home market, but they're often very slow in China because of their bandwidth issues. And so they've already set up the business, and what they're doing is they are, before they set up in that local government area, they had already talked to PE companies, they talked to a strategic company, they talked to a number of funds. They were in the automotive space, so there was a large Chinese strategic interested, and then there was like a main PE company, and they brought a bunch of different funds in there. So I think now the idea is they're going to ramp up the business. They've got the incentives, and they've got in the back of their mind the exit. It could be an IPO, could be a trade sale. Maybe they'll back that business into a listed company. But the issue is they've got many more opportunities than you used to have, because 10 years ago, if you set up a joint venture in China, your exit strategy was, I don't know what I'm going to do to exit. So nowadays there are potential opportunities, and you just have to work out how it will be. And I think for these companies, perhaps the most difficult question will be the IP issue. Who will own that core IP in China? How will it interact with the IP ownership overseas? Can that joint venture evolve the IP differently? These will be difficult questions. It's not going to be easy like the old standard joint venture contract where there's a clear template. A lot of these questions will really depend on the issue at hand.
And these steps one, 2, and 3 seem very traditional in a way. Maybe the step 3 is a little bit more modern, but step 4, I think, is when it starts to get a little bit very modern. Like you said in the previous episode, Mark, China is not necessarily, the production plant anymore. It's the place where you go to raise money, especially for technology companies. So step 4, investment rounds, very interesting.
Yeah. So, I don't know if this is going to work. It should work. There's a vibrant PE environment now in China. And just the series of investors, I think this is what people would be used to in the West as well. And I think the other advantage is, it's firstly, for the tech company, it makes it easier perhaps to set up in China. It means it doesn't have to divert capital from its home market to China. It's got funds here. But also for the Chinese investors, you don't have that foreign exchange issue. You don't need to get the approvals. And perhaps what they really see is they can understand the business in China much better. and they can add value to that business. So especially the strategic, that strategic party will think, well, if I put 10 million renminbi in a company in the UK, what am I doing? I'm just an investor. Who knows what they're going to do with the money? But if I put in 10 million renminbi in China, I've got this ability. I can put them in contact with that supplier. I can use it for this. They could be, I can open up this for them. I can help them, get a factory in the zone which I'm co-located in. So I just think it makes a lot of sense for the Chinese investor, and it makes a lot of sense for the international company.
And it makes a lot of sense for the partner too, because what we have here is the end game. You alluded to it earlier that the end game previously for joint ventures was that there was none. There was no singular alignment between the parties, and whether it's an IPO on the Star Exchange, maybe it's some PE investment, but there are a couple different options now. Now, considering that China has become the market to sell to, the market to target. So maybe how do you see this playing out in terms of potential joint ventures?
So I think the thing is, there'll be just more options. But most of the joint ventures we've done in the past were really joint ventures where the foreign company was interested in market access, and they had the technology, and they had the capital, and the Chinese partner was going to help with local connections, might have some plant or factory available. And so it was really like, it was a joint venture, but it was a joint venture that had the foreign company's brand on it and all this kind of stuff. And I think the world's changing a bit. So it may be that the joint ventures I'm talking about here are more true joint ventures where a foreign company brings certain things, a Chinese partner brings certain things, and maybe neither of them really own the joint venture after a period of time. So it might be that it actually is a true joint venture and it is truly an independent body. And so I think that's the big difference. And if people are willing to do that, if there are these tech companies that think, look, my home market is Europe or my home market is North America, but I would like to have some influence and I'd like to be part of an Asian strategy, which is China-centric, this may be a very interesting approach for them. But it won't be for everybody. It won't be for somebody who really wants to keep 100% control and they want everything to be in their name and they want to, this will be for somebody who is willing to give up some level of control and possibly have, safeguards in place to distance themselves, but, to, really fully reap the rewards of China or to build a very, very big business in China. I think it's difficult to do that without a Chinese partner. You can be a niche player, or if you really want to go big, you probably need it.
Yeah, and if you're not interested in this, step one and step two is perfectly fine. We see that quite often. It gets a little bit more interesting if you go see it all the way to the end game here. You can really scale up in a way that you can't do by yourself. Thanks so much, Mark, for explaining this. If you have any questions, Mark's contact details will be in the description below. Thank you so much for watching.